Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast. My guest today is Brett Abarbanel, the Executive Director of the International Gaming Institute at UNLV, and we're going to talk about the conference coming up in May. It's one of my favorite conferences of the year, so thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Roger. Thank you. We're really excited about the event, too.
Yeah, it's called the, I had to look this up again.
Yeah.
I would just call it the Eadington Conference because Bill's the one that started it, but it's called the 19th International Conference on Gambling and Risk-Taking, which...
Whole mouthful,
you could see Bill inventing that name.
You can, yes. It's such an academic thing, isn't it? To give something a really long descriptive name.
Right.
And then it has an acronym you can't even just say in one go, right? It's an initialism instead.
But it's held every 3 years. It's not an annual conference, so it's something that I really look forward to because you have 3 years to look it up, you know. But I want to talk about that as we get on to the conference. But I want to talk about your role here at the International Gaming Institute. You've been in charge now for what, about a year and a half, 2 years?
Oh, Roger, it's been 3 years almost.
It's been, right. Well, time flies when you
yes,
have fun,
it does.
Well, just in the last year, you had a lot of interesting things that went on. Let's talk about the first thing, which is the artificial intelligence group you put together.
Absolutely. So this is the AIR Hub, right? We have to have acronyms. This is an academic institution. AIR is AI research, so we're very creative with these acronyms as well. And this is a group that we've built up as part of our research arm.
Sure.
And it is focused on exactly what we've described it as, right? The use of AI in gaming. So these are all the different potential applications of AI. Now, obviously, that is a huge subject to cover. So we're trying to focus on a particular few areas, but the big underlying theme of all this is a little bit multifold here, right? It's what is AI? How can it be used?
Right.
But most importantly here, how can it be used in an ethical manner, right? So this goes beyond the scope of some of the typical ethical questions we ask in gambling, right? So things like problem gambling, addiction, harm prevention. But also, how do we make sure that we're not using a tool like AI in a way that interferes with data privacy, in a way that compromises our cybersecurity, or in a way that really just makes it so that we have a product that's not so much enjoyable, but really just a constant source of presence, right? So all of these then, you know, it's the classic philosophical question of many things, especially technology. It's the Jurassic Park question, right? Did you spend so much time wondering if you could that you didn't stop to think whether or not you should?
Right.
And that's really the big question that sort of underpins all of the different research that comes out of AIR Hub. And there are a few big areas that we've looked at so far. So these are things like regulation, they're major data analytics projects, and all of this is spearheaded by my absolutely amazing director of research. I am so lucky to have him here, and that's Kazra Gaharian, who's been fantastic at all of this work. And the big thing that he is working on now is a State of AI in Gaming report. Now, this is a behemoth, right? We've seen some of these reports on other areas, right? So State of AI in Business that MIT generates every year, nice big hefty thing, right? Very academic to do such a big hefty thing. And this will be that, but specific to gaming. So again, what are these major areas that AI is being used in gaming? And how is it being used? How can we use it more in the future?
Sure. You know, I've thought about how it can be used in casino marketing, obviously. You know, you talked about data analytics, and you can do all kinds of data analytics on your players, and then you can unleash AI upon them. And is that going to work, or is that going to actually turn them off? So, you know, it's a really complicated issue.
It is. And what I think has been so interesting about some of these early reports on AI, too, is, you know, we're human beings, right? We get so excited and distracted by the big, flashy, sexy stuff, and there's all these cool things you can do with AI. Like right now, as we record, 2 floors below us is the Center for Gaming Innovations, Gaming Innovation class. And today in class, it's a 3-hour class, and in those 3 hours, they're going to use AI to build an entire game in the scope of 3 hours. And as Dan Saul, who runs this class in the center, was saying to me right before we started recording, yeah, we might even get all the artwork done today too. I mean, the ability to do these things is really, really neat. And then simultaneously, the things that we're seeing immediate ROI with are the less the less cool, flashy things. They're the things that are core business practices, right? Using something to review the grammar in your email, automating processes behind the scene. The employees within these companies are using these tools for individual business use, and that's something that's one of the most immediate things we've seen, all while we're looking at these huge, big picture concepts with big data analytics.
Sure. Well, I can see it being used for scheduling. Scheduling is always such a difficult thing to do, and you can let the employees give their preferences and things they want to do, things they don't want to do. I remember when I was working for Showboat in Atlantic City back in the mid '80s. It was the first time they used computers to do scheduling, and it was a disaster. People were working 7 days a week. Other people had 4 days off. What's going on here? But so I think AI is a little smarter than that at this point.
Yeah, we'll see. But just like anything, right? It's an intelligence unit, right? Sure. That's the AI. Intelligence has to learn. You don't just automatically show up with a whole bunch of knowledge, and you don't automatically show up with a whole lot of ability to process that knowledge. So it will continue to build and grow.
Right. No question about that.
It's a neat opportunity for the future.
So you've also got a new director for the International Center for Regulation, Gaming Regulation. And,
so she actually this week celebrates her 2nd anniversary with us. I know. All these things. I know. I feel like you were just here. We did this a couple years ago already. Wow. Yes, so this is Megan Basson. She comes to us from the Western Cape Gambling Regulatory Board in South Africa. I'm so thrilled to have her here. This is a center that, it's right in the name, right? The International Center for Gaming Regulation. This is the International Gaming Institute. We've spent such a long time fostering this growth in the U.S. and North America and beyond, and so to have somebody like Megan come and bring this expertise and unique perspective on gambling has been incredibly valuable. Everything from simple things like, look, this is a woman who ran was the head of licensing for many years, and has worked as a bureaucrat and knows the ins and outs of bureaucracy. Something as simple as, we have to make sure our schedule goes out at least 2 years because that's how far in advance we plan budgets.
Yeah, right.
Well, my mind is blown at that. I do 8 months.
Exactly.
To huge, again, these big picture ideas of what are these major areas, especially in technology, that regulators need to learn about. And those are the things that we've really been able to implement into classes with a lot of that know-how. So we've got we have an entire refreshed staff now. We've got a new executive director who will be celebrating her 2nd anniversary this week. We have a new operations director who just joined, a month ago, even a month and a half maybe. New business manager. All of these folks are here, and everything is once again at full steam. We've got education programs. We've got some program ideas that are actually going to hopefully slip into this conference that's coming up in May. I'm really excited about everything that's been going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring in regulators from around the world. You just mentioned you had some from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, we had some Kazakhstanis here. That was about a year and a half ago now. We have different groups from all over. Japan comes in quite regularly. We have attendees of our various programs. So, for example, we have some open enrollment programs. We have one coming up just next week. We have a few again through the rest of this calendar year. And then we also do custom programs. So we've got regulators who come in from different states who have an entire group that comes in with dedicated programming needs. So all over the world.
Sports betting is new for some of these jurisdictions. Do you have a sports betting focus on, and they come in and learn about how that runs, how that's regulated?
We have, so starting with 2018, we opened up a sports betting 101 class, and that class sold out every single time it was offered for I think 5 full years, and we've actually had to dial it back a little bit because we have to make sure we get all the other classes as well. Things like compliance 101, security and surveillance, those things too.
So what am I missing here that I haven't talked? We talked about the Gaming Innovation Lab, which is fantastic. Founded by Dr. Mark Yoseloff. One of the brilliant people in this industry, and that's going strong. I know you place some products all over the world.
All over the place. Mark really established an amazing foundation. How lucky are we to have a guy, a math PhD who's run multiple gaming supply companies, come and say, hey, I don't want to die with all this knowledge in my head. What can we do, right? And then we said, well, we've got these classes you can teach. What do you think? It doesn't pay as well as a CEO role, but
Right, yeah.
luckily that didn't matter.
Yeah.
And he really set the foundation between the innovation class and getting this center established that, and then he's of course since retired, and now we have Dan
Sure.
Saul running
Yeah.
it. The class itself and the IP that it generates has been a huge boon. We have students now who will sell the IP that they create in this class, and it pays for their entire tuition and
Sure.
sometimes then some. It's really fantastic. And the class also, the center also has a great relationship now with DraftKings sponsors through a very generous agreement to our DraftKings studio that exists within the center. And so students are now able to not just work through a 15-week semester-long class, but continue growing their idea beyond that, maybe even creating a proof of concept,
Sure.
an actual demo product. All of these things are now possible through that center.
Yeah, no question about that. So let's talk about the Eadington Conference. And,
Oh, yeah.
This is, it's being held at Bellagio?
It's at Bellagio next year, yeah.
Okay.
We move it around a little bit. We've
Sure.
kept it in Las Vegas since
Yeah.
we took it over from the late, great Bill Eadington.
I know, I was in Vancouver one year for it,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
in Lake Tahoe one year for it. I mean, it's an incredible conference. Explain how it's structured and so
Yes.
people can know if they have never been to it.
Okay. Well, if you've never been before, you'll have to come. And I'm going to start poking at the FOMO by saying if you don't come, you have to wait until 2029.
Yeah.
Because this
That's right, yeah.
is structured to be every 3 years. And I like to say it's only every 3 years because we need a really long rest after
Yeah,
putting this
that's true,
together.
for sure.
But the true reality is this is an event where we bring together the latest and greatest from the academic research space, from the business space, from all of our different peripheral industries that impact the gaming world, to all come together and bring the most up-to-date, interesting work. And if we do this annually, we just don't feel like we get all the new, right, stuff takes a while to build up and get to a really interesting point. And certainly in the academic world, where we're not always famous for our speed. But this event is built to be that. It's where all these different perspectives, we'll have academics, we'll have gambling industry operators, suppliers, peripheral industries, things like data and payments, sports, media. The great Roger Gros comes to these events, right? To come and learn from each other. We've got legal folks, we've got regulators and other government employees, problem gambling clinicians, nonprofit groups, and they all either bring their work or they come and contribute to the discussion with their views on the gambling and risk-taking space.
Right.
So when this thing started, right, 1974, it was Bill Eadington's great idea. And if you're not familiar with Bill, Bill is he's an economist. He is the father of gambling as an academic pursuit.
No question.
I mean, this was a time when he first started doing this, people probably thought he was insane.
Yeah,
They're like,
sure.
You're kidding me, gambling, right? Why would you study that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
That's a
You don't want to get involved with that mob, do you?
yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, okay. Now, do you study the density of concrete when it goes onto your feet? Is that stuff? Jokes like that. But it's become this huge, massive field. I mean, it's quite niche, but we have grown exponentially since Bill's ideas back in the late '60s, early '70s.
Sure.
And this conference started in 1974. So last year was the 50th anniversary. We didn't really perfectly time out the every 3 years thing to a 50th anniversary,
yeah.
but we'll celebrate it in 2026 nonetheless.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? And so it had probably like 6 people, right? From what I'm told, the 6 people sat around a blackjack table to chat because this is, of course, a gaming conference.
Sure, right.
And it's grown massively since then. So in 2019, which is our last, normal times event,
Right. Yeah.
we had about 600 people from 34 different countries, all sorts of different backgrounds, right? Academics from history and math and economics, business, psychology, sociology, as well as, again, that same mix of backgrounds in terms of where people work, right? All these different perspectives on how you spend your day. Now, before this starts to sound like a really intense academic pursuit, don't get me wrong, there will be some intense academic presentations. Sure. This really is for everybody. So one of the major goals here is knowledge exchange. And so this really is a critical opportunity for that.
Sure.
If you work in the industry, this is your opportunity to learn what the latest and greatest in research is. And because you're there providing your perspective, you're adding context to the research that exists.
Right.
You're making sure that the researchers, you're not interfering with their work. What you're doing is making sure that when they do their work and they think through, oh, how can this be used outside the walls of academia, they're thinking about the context that you get to provide in attendance. So we are so excited to welcome all different people, all different backgrounds. The more the merrier, and the more diverse, the better this conference is.
Yeah. And that's what I like about it, is the diversity, because I remember one year somebody was doing gameplay, how to play chess the correct way.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with gambling? But it's really cool. You know,
it really is.
To really get that stuff in there, and I just like the different viewpoints you get at all times.
So do I, and
you get some wacky people too.
We do. I
remember,
love them. They come out of the woodwork for this.
I remember talking to a guy at one of the ones in Lake Tahoe, and he was a researcher from Australia, and he was telling me, I have proof that the more slot machines you put out, the more holes that problem gamblers can fall into. I said, what?
What are they, like, are the slot machines falling into the ground? Is that like creating this
pulling the problem gambler with him,
And we have, I mean, gosh, so in 2013 we were incredibly lucky. Our friend Andy Block, who lives here in town, helped us reunite the MIT blackjack team, which is really neat. And that was before, of course, the settled lawsuit where everybody can come back to properties. So we actually got this incredible collection of people, and we ended up sending in the names. That event was at Caesars. We gave it to Caesars, and that's when we found out some of the folks actually were blacklisted from Caesars and couldn't come on property. So we had some pre-recorded sessions that year. That was really neat. We've had folks come in. I always love the math presentations, and as you know, but maybe the listeners don't know, I am at heart a huge math nerd. My background's in statistics, and I get like super joy, out of seeing all the equations go on the screen. So one of my favorite stories from the 23 event was Mike Seeley, who's this great reporter in the in the Roger Gros world, he came and he decided to go to one of the math sessions because one of the professors, he worked at Mike's wife's alma mater. So he was like, this is great. I'm going to go and tell him my wife is an alum of his institution. And he went and he listened to all the presentations, and he had told me ahead of time, I don't know if I'm going to know what's going on here. And he listened to all the presentations, and of course you get to the end. I say, well, are there any questions? And he raised his hand. He goes, what's your favorite math joke? And that made it into his write-up. It was fantastic. We really try to have a good time at this thing.
For sure,
So, for example, like the keynotes and some of the plenary, I'll call them Brett curated sessions or IGI curated sessions. We have other folks do. This is where we kind of get like the really. It's either going to be really deep stuff or really quirky stuff or both. We've been able, for example, in 2019, we had, it was the middle of James Holzhauer's Jeopardy run. And we're like, somebody's got to know James. This guy lives in town, right? And we were very lucky we were able to get him over there. Penn Jillette did one of the keynotes, talking about risk-taking more broadly. So, and then last year we had Connor Fields, local BMX Olympic gold medalist, to talk about risk and risk-taking. Mike Fieldson, of course, and his dad is this. And one of the OGs, in the gaming world. So he had all sorts of different interesting perspectives. One of the things that I'm working on, now no promises because it has to come together, and I've got 6.5 months for next time, is risk-taking in film, which I'm hoping we'll really be able to pull together and get a couple folks over from LA to talk about not just financial risk-taking, but also what are some of the social risks that you might incur. We live in a world where you never quite know how someone's going to react to a certain perspective or certain thought on a particular area. How is that manifesting in decisions to move forward with film? How might that be different at like a big budget place versus an indie developer? And so I'm really excited. I have my fingers crossed we'll be able to pull this all together, some really interesting folks from that space too, and we're building some of the others as we go as well. So I'm very excited for.
So you're still open to ideas, correct?
Oh, I am always looking for ideas.
So how would somebody submit an idea or a proposal to be on this year's conference?
Perfect feed in line. Thank you, Roger. So we are accepting proposals for presentations right now. If you go to our website, which is igi.unlv.edu, there's a link on the homepage to our conference where you'll find all sorts of information about the conference itself, the dates, very important, May 26th to 28th of next year, as well as a link to our submission portal for ideas. Now, don't be scared away by, it's kind of academic-y in form.
Sure,
we're an academic institute, but the core of it is we want you to write in about 200 words, what do you want to talk about and why is it important for our audience? And then you got to tell us who you are, and that's about it. That's the submission. And with this, these are 15-minute presentations. We'll have some poster sessions, which is very common
that's always fun,
for academic presentations. You get to put it all in one room. It's a big, exciting space. And then we're also going to be looking at that as we put together some of the panels and keynotes, because we want, some folks have really interesting ideas, and we want to make sure that the most interesting ideas are the ones that come together here.
And the most entertaining ideas.
The entertaining ideas, yes. This is we're going to have fun. I command it.
Yes. So this conference has had a lot of impact on the industry. A lot of the people who came out of the woodwork became really famous people. I know you had Ernie Moody in here at one point at one of the conferences. Ernie was the inventor of triple play poker, and now runs Action Gaming, the video poker giant. So those kind of people who come out of this conference. Yeah,
this is the kind of place where, gosh, I would love to say people get discovered there. Wouldn't that be neat?
Sure.
Oh, speaking of like Hollywood and film, come get discovered. But that really is, I think, what makes it so interesting is we get folks who are at the beginning of their career, as well as folks who are at the apex of their career, whether that's academics or people who work in the industry. What Bill used to say with this sort of thing is this is about building the space that we are in, right? We're in a niche space, don't get me wrong, right? And so Bill really wanted this to be built. And so one of the things that he passed on when we inherited this conference from him, much like you leave things to your kids, he left many of his academic things to IGI. And is it okay if I curse? Because Bill did, and it's fabulous. So what Bill said was, look, we want to build the future. So for like junior scholars or people who are fresh into this industry submitting work to present or submitting presentation ideas, benefit of the doubt, we want to encourage people to be there. For folks who are like, they've been in this space for a while, if they're submitting like the same thing for 5 conferences in a row, if this is a lazy submission, fuck them, right? They need to bring something new and interesting and make sure that what they're bringing here is a really interesting thing. And what that's really meant is that we're able to bring folks in and give them a platform to talk about their work, what their work means, how it can be used in the industry, how it can be used in policy making, all the different things that affect how the industry exists. And sometimes that's been the start of a burgeoning and glowing career. We've had some fantastic folks who come through the doors of, I'll say the conference, because it's moved around a little bit from year to year.
For sure. And again, this is what I like about it, is that it's not like a G2E where you have pretty steady, you know what you're going to talk about. This year we were talking about predictions, markets, sweepstakes, blah blah blah. Some years it's like server-based gaming. I mean, all this stuff is going to come and gone. But this conference always has something really cutting edge.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for that too. We always have some. Like I said, folks come out of the woodwork with some of these, and that's where you get the really neat, what's the future going to look like types of presentations. So that's, for example, where some of the crypto presentations were coming out in 2016, 2019, right? And that's where I'm guessing we're going to see some of the prediction market stuff this year.
See that for sure.
And what I'm really hoping for this year, so if folks are listening, some of the stuff I'm really hoping to see are, especially in this confluence and an overlap space of financial markets and gambling, because these subjects aren't new, but the way we're talking about what is or isn't, I'll put that in air quotes, gambling, is new to our field. And I'm curious to see, we've always had a few folks in the gambling research space who have looked at finance and financial trading as a gambling activity, whether that's in the harm prevention space, in the business space, etc. And I'm really hopeful to see gosh, I hope they look smug faces going, I've been talking about this for a decade now. And I hope they do get to be smug about it, because look, it's a big subject now.
Well, I just wrote my editorial for the December issue.
Oh, yeah.
And on prediction markets, and I bring this up. I've been hearing this for my whole career.
Yeah.
Wall Street is the biggest gambling spot, the biggest casino in the world. And it's right. I mean, you gambling, you put money down, and you hope you win, that the stock goes up. And if it doesn't, you lost your money.
Yeah,
That's
and
gambling.
you know what, too, Roger? That's one of the reasons why this conference is the wordy name it is, right? The International Conference on Gambling and Risk-Taking. That risk-taking piece is as important to this conference as the gambling piece of this. Right. And because whatever it's called, and it's the idea of risk that's so core to this. That's why we have folks like Penn Jillette do keynotes. That's why we have folks like Connor Fields. That's why we're talking about, growth of women's sports and risk within all these areas there as well. How does this build into some of the other areas of our life? Those are all core areas for this conference too, and I like to think that that's part of what makes it such a fun event, is that it's not just the usual suspects, it's all of us usual suspects, plus a whole bunch of other folks who get to teach us lessons that we can then take back into our everyday business.
Well, Brett, I'm really glad that you're running this institute here. I was here at the beginning when the great Shannon Bybee founded this institution. Vince Ead was executive director. Bo did such a great job in all his years. But you're bringing the same enthusiasm and the same innovation that I saw right at the beginning. And I'm really glad that you're doing such a great job and keeping this thing going as Shannon envisioned when he started with this.
Thank you. That is turning red. That's very flattering. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for doing this, and we'll see you in May at the Bellagio for the Eadington Conference.
Yes, my pleasure. So May 26th to 28th, 2026.
And how do people register? We have to tell them to do that.
Also on the website as well. Same website. The registration link will open in early January, as will the hotel reservation link. We are looking for folks to submit speaking abstracts. We're looking for folks to do sponsorships. Please reach out if you're interested in sponsoring. Sponsorships are donations, which are, and I'm not a tax lawyer, so take this with a grain of salt, fair value tax deductible. Please consult your lawyer. And this really is, again, it's the folks that contribute are what makes it a success, whether that's as a sponsor donor, whether that's as a presenter, as an attendee, as media covering the event. Please come join us and come join in the fun.
Great. I'll be there for sure.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.